change professionals together. So thank you so much for joining again. So we'd just like to know, I know a few of you have already started saying where are you from. We would like to have, if you're a professional coach, add a PC to the front of your name, just like how me, Alicia, Rich, all of us have it. And if you're a change professional, add a CP to the front of your name. If you're dual certified, right, you're rocking in both worlds, add a DU in front of your name. The reason why we're doing this is we're going to have some breakouts, we're going to have some conversations going, and this is a way for us to make sure we are mixing up both the groups into the breakouts. Over to you, Alicia.
Okay. All right. Okay. So here are your hosts for today. Myself, Abby is a fellow director on ICF Toronto. We have Rich here, who is the founding member and global president of ACMP. Sharon, who is the president of ACMP Ontario chapter, and also Nadine, who is the ICF Ottawa president. So we're just going to take a minute each to introduce ourselves. I'm going to invite Nadine, if you would like to introduce yourself first. And then you can just pass the baton and invite someone else to introduce themselves. So Nadine, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Alicia. My name is Nadine, as you just mentioned, and I am the new president of Ottawa chapter. So we are a new board. We've been working together for a couple of months, but I'm very lucky to have a very vibrant, energetic, and enthusiastic board. And we have a big vision for our chapter. We do want to be a beacon of excellence, a beacon of belonging and partnership. And, you know, being here is probably the first step towards partnership. So thank you so much, Alicia, for inviting us and for taking this initiative. We're really very excited to be part of this. And thank you, ACMP, as well.
Great. Abby, I'll let you go next. Invite you to go next.
Thanks, Alicia. So I just want to start by saying no one wants to eat the same sandwich every day, right? As humans, we crave for new, but at the same time, we kind of cling on to the familiar patterns that we are so used to. So change is both exciting and challenging. So this work here today, what we're going to share about, and what I do is understanding human systems and workplace. So that's the most exciting part for me, and the reason why I'm part of the JTF as well. So excited to hear more from all of you today in this conversation. And over to Rich.
Hey, thank you very much. So a privilege to be in such esteemed company today. So my background is 30 years in the change space. Obviously, I was only yay high when I started, but I've always been passionate about the subject matter. And for the last probably about, oh gosh, no, we said to do some quick math. About 16, 17 years, I've also been a coach as well within that professional piece. So only ever achieved ACC. I know there's lots of folks with far higher qualification levels on this call, but always looking at how we start from an individual level to build into organizational change and how those things mix and match. And really, really, really thrilled as well to be here, because this is one of the big beacons of the joint task force and the working together for ICF and ACMP happening in this region. So I'm going to pass it over to Sharon as my fellow ACMP folks.
Thank you, Rich. Really happy to be here. My name is Sharon McLaughlin. I'm the current president of ACMP Ontario. It is a broader board now. It started as under Rich as ACMP Toronto. So now we are Ontario wide, and I'm coming to you from the Ottawa area. And I'm very happy to be here. I have two. I was just as young as Rich. I started in human resources and then moved into project management, doing employee experience projects. And it took me many years to realize that I wasn't successful at that because of my project management experience. It was because of my change management experience. And I've been certified by the ACMP since 2019. Been on the board for 2 years. Love continuous learning. I'm actually an ICF member as well, but just in the process of getting my coaching and going through for my coaching certification. So all this speaks to my heart and caring of people through the change process. And I love this task force and the work, and I look forward to building that partnership further.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll also introduce our organizations. So we are all here representing both of these organizations, both the Association of Change Management Professionals, ACMP, as well as the ICF International Coaching Federation. And so what you'll see here is sort of the official definitions of what each of us do as an introduction. And so what I'm going to draw your attention to here is just that we both work in change. We both work in the process of transformation, of future focused, and we both come at it from a slightly different angle, a slightly different perspective. I think when you read the change management definition, at least for me, you can feel that there's structure, there's process, there's framework, and you're dealing with people. So systems, processes, and people. When you look at the definition from ICF, you see something that is more people focused, less structured, more creative, potentially more, we love to use the word flow in coaching for those of you that aren't as familiar with coaching. And again, it's about creating change and momentum and forward moving. So different and complementary. And you're going to hear that as a theme as we go through this. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to, one of the things about the joint task force that we're trying to do is also to educate each other, each other's profession on, we're both play in the space of change, and how do we both play in the space of change? I know for myself, I've been on the task force from the very beginning. So I've been here for the journey. And when I joined the task force, I joined, as a coach. And so my learning has been exponential, really understanding, even though I worked in corporations for 25 years and I led a lot of change, I have learned a lot about what change professionals do and the benefit and advantage to having change professionals lead organizational change. And also through that, seeing how coaching can complement and supplement and accelerate the change process. So we're going to share that. We're going to be talking about what are some common challenges that we both are facing as change professionals and as coaches when we think about organizational change and supporting that. And most importantly, is just network and get to know one another. So we're going to give you some breakouts. We've got 3 breakouts planned. So we're going to mix you up so that you get a chance to meet each other and say hi and share some experiences and some thoughts. So this isn't just about sharing information. This is about giving you some information and letting you sort of play with it a little bit. Okay. So who is the task force? So the task force is ACMP, ICF Global coming together. They came together in 2020. The impetus of the partnership actually came from a study in 2018 by the Human Capital Institute, which was looking at change and how to support, what are the best ways to support change in organizations. And what actually came out of that report and that research was that coaching was one of the most effective tools, even more so than formal classroom training and lots of other different modalities. And so from that, it sort of sparked an aha where ICF Global and ACMP started to talk about what are the opportunities to work better together. And so formed this global task force, and it is global. There's members from lots of different places and in both coaching and change management, and came together and started to explore what are the complements. How can these 2 organizations work better together? And also, how do we create value for both of our organizations, given that we both are working in a common space of change management? So as I said, there's been lots of work. We're going to share with you the thought leadership that's come out of it. And most importantly, as we said, is about how do we bring these two organizations together and the people that work in them. Okay. So maybe many of you might be familiar with some of the information we're going to be sharing today, because the Joint Task Force has been running an insight series over the last 2 years. And what we've been doing is sharing out the recommendations and the thought leadership that's come out of this task force. And I can tell you, this is a really, really popular topic, because for each one of these webinars that we ran, we had over 1,000 people. Like the registration was like up to 1,400, I think, on some of them. And live participation of like 800, 900, 1,000 people. So this is a hot topic. So we're so glad to see all of you here today to just learn more about it. And you can see these were the key topics. Abby will put in the link to the ACMP ICF Joint Task Force landing page, where we're going to encourage you, go on there. There's all kinds of information. There's decks from all of these presentations, so you can learn a lot more. The key areas we looked at was what can organizational change leverage from professional coaching, the use of coach approach in the change process, and what coaching can leverage from change management. So you can really see that there's that creation of value for both of us. And then there's the topic of dual certified. We know many of you maybe today here are dual certified. Some of us here on the panel are also dual certified. And so you're going to hear today just that's a wonderful thing, and the importance of distinction. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So how do we each play a role when we talk about change? So what do change professionals do? And so this is addressing the coaches on the call today. And so this is a model of change standard. This is the ACMP standard for change management. There are many models, right? Many models. But for the task force, we chose this one because we needed something to start with. And so we use the ACMP standard for change management. And what you'll see here is there are 5 major buckets. But as Rich or Sharon will share with you, in each of those buckets, there are multiple steps that are within that. I can't remember, Rich, do you, I want to say when I was going through it, there was like 50 steps. Am I close?
I would even say there's over 100 elements in there, because what's a step, what's a stage, what's a sequence, going into that piece and everything.
Right.
So very much a much bigger
out there. Right, exactly. So thank you for sharing that. So what we're saying here is that this change process is comprehensive, it is complex, and it's very structured. So the change professionals who lead organizational change have a ton of structure and process to this. And so we use this in the task force. And what we said was we did a bunch of case studies and research and said, what's working in change, organizational change, and what are the gaps and challenges? And what we found was that there was a lot of opportunity to get more clarity, more transparency, more alignment, and more leadership throughout this process. And so that's where the opportunity presented itself to say, hey, here's how coaching can help fill in those gaps. And so you're going to hear more about that as we go through it. What do coaches do? Well, we also support organizational change. And I'm sure many of you on the call here today are working in organizations, either as an internal coach or an external coach. And so there's many ways that coaching can support change. Individual leader and sponsor coaching. really to help foster commitment, leadership behaviors, mindset, communication. As Abby said, leading change is hard, complex, not smooth all the time. So coaching can be very helpful. Team coaching, right? We know that throughout the organization, there's all kinds of teams. So getting alignment there, and there's group and affinity coaching. So that could be an example of frontline workers where we need to create agents of change. So lots of modalities, lots of opportunities for coaches and coaching to support the organizational change. Pass it over to Abby to talk about what many of us may already experience in our everyday life, the top 10 challenges.
Thanks, Alicia. There's lots that you covered, and thank you so much for giving us that heads up into what's coming for the session today, right? So challenges, I know we kind of put some of the challenges while we call top 10 challenges, but there could be many more. And the first one being high level of resistance. We say change is hard, but as humans, I know we also love change in one side. So there is a bit of a challenge there. Lack of awareness or desire to support change. So what's the requirement? What do I need? What's the support I need? Those are some questions that gets asked. And we're talking a lot in organizational change perspective. So we talk about stakeholder commitment, what's the lack of that, lack of mid-level and group leadership support when we go through change, inadequate number of resources to manage the whole change process, employees overburdened with too much change, lots of rapid changes. And we are in a world where we're seeing change literally every day, every second of our lives. So that's also causing too much of change, right, in too short time. And then there's discord between the change management team and the project team. So there's multiple elements that's coming in when it comes to a change process. Ambiguity about change and uncertainty, right? We are living in a VUCA world, and we used to talk about it a few years back as VUCA, and after COVID, we literally live that kind of life almost every day. And then lack of strategic communication. So these are some broad challenges, but we also want all of you to go into our first breakout to think about what are some challenges that you are seeing. You could be a change professional seeing challenges in the process. You could be a professional coach working in change, or you've heard of change challenges or anything like that. So we just want you to get into a breakout room. It's going to be a 10-minute breakout room where you're going to just have brainstorm. And when we come back, we're going to listen to more challenges that you're going to bring and share with us, right? And for the ones who can't join breakout rooms, I know a few of you mentioned that you are driving, can't join. That's absolutely fine, right? So we have George today who's going to help us with breakouts. Let's see what comes up after we come back in 10 minutes. So George, can we have the breakout rooms open now? Okay, there you go. See you all back in 10 minutes. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I'm getting some responses that some of the members here won't be able to get into breakout rooms because of not being on not being on camera and other things. So
yeah, no worries. It's absolutely okay. So I did respond.
If you're not on camera, you can still join a breakout room if they want. They don't have to be on camera.
Yeah, and some are driving, I think, so they are difficult to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if we could give one more reminder to rename themselves with PC and CP before, I think they'll be easy for me to sort out the breakouts because yeah, it's just
I put that up multiple times, but yeah. part of
But
the
it's a
game.
great group. It's a big group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than we expected. That's great.
Good. Great.
Yeah. And not only from Ontario, I saw people from all over the world. So that's
Yes.
a good thing. Interesting topic, as you said, Alicia.
Seriously, these webinars we did, they were like, it was like 14, 15, 1,600 people registering. It's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So, and
So-
same
some of-
thing, global. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say some of those webinars, I think we even had to arrange for grades on systems to be able to accommodate the numbers because they were like maxed out at 999 for attendees for some of these stuff, and you've got to go and get extra stuff. But really good stuff as well because it also prompted a lot of circular conversation going on as well
Yeah.
for folks around this as well, which was good. Because I think a lot of people get caught up in their own little island and they forget to look beyond that. So it was a
Yeah.
good opportunity to recognize that stuff.
By the way, do you want
And
to pause the recording or is it okay?
Oh yeah.
I could pause it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a new member who just
Yeah.
came in. Maybe if you want to give person a
Yes. Hi, Ravinder. Thanks for joining. Everybody is in the breakout. So, that's why you're seeing less number of people here, but everybody is there. So is it okay if we put you in a breakout now? It's probably another 5 minutes in a breakout.
Whatever works for you, that's fine.
Okay. And then we
Thanks.
just need you to, if you are a coach, then add a PC to the front of your name. If you have a change professional CP, and if you're dual certified, do DU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. George, you can.
Yeah, I think I have already.
Okay, awesome.
Rich, what are you seeing around this topic? What sort of, what are you noticing as hot or really present?
There's a few elements, I think, in terms of the broader picture. And I know from an ACMP point of view, we're working on this strategically, looking at lots of professions that are complementary within the change space. We've just started doing a partnership with IABC, the Business Communicators International Association, because recognizing the communications piece. And I think what we're recognizing is that there's a lot of folks in the change space who use multiple techniques and bring lots of different backgrounds and experiences into that. And they're looking for ways that they continue doing that. They don't want to be saying, I stop this and I start doing this thing. They want to say, well, how do I continue to use this experience? So if I've been a coach for many years, how do I continue to use that and take it forward? And then I think on the flip side, what we're starting to see is a lot of work going on in cultural realignments in organizations and that side of things, that's encouraging organizations to bring in professional coaches to support the individuals through the change experience and help them to discover their best fit journey for what that cultural shift means for them. So I think that's something, it's still, I would say, a little bit not commonplace. It's still a growing piece, but I am seeing that with a lot more. Being totally honest with you, I would say a lot more in Europe than I'm seeing in North America. There's still a resistance within senior leadership, I think, to invest in that sort of full-time coaching professional on staff. It's still like, well, we'll pull when and as we need, but we don't really want to take it on properly. It's that sort of piece. Whereas we see it a lot more in Europe and also Australia as well. I've seen it where there's a lot more willingness to have those sort of full-time members of staff that happen to be the coach for business unit ABC, that type of thing. Yeah.
So Rich and Sharon, maybe this question is for both of you, but when you enter an organization and you have a project of change, so you're planning the whole process and going through the change management process, Do you usually seek coaches? Do you partner with coaches to support you in this, or do you focus on the process and the things that ACMP focuses on?
Do you want me to take that? I'll start.
Yeah, go for it, start off. Yeah.
I think as Rich said, for me personally, it's that evolution. You know, as I said in my intro, I started on that human space. So it's all about the people.
Yeah.
And so I think I naturally did that to build on what Rich was saying. You know, I work in a municipal government, so it's tough. It's tough for organizations to have both. So it's not an automatic, absolutely. Depending on the focus of change, you know, I had many of that employee experience type projects that I worked on, which the coach wasn't the first thing that came to mind. But as you transition a management team or a new culture, that's where it's more prevalent.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I'd add to that, sort of seconding what you're saying about the type of changes where it's all important. You know, historically, change management was very much, you know, what we were just saying about the process, that sort of pragmatic process of transactional support mechanisms, because it revolved around the technology implementation. But what we're seeing now is that the change management is much more fluid, and you mentioned about flow that we talk about within sort of that stuff. I would say there's a lot more of that coming into the change space, because when you're looking at organizational design, when you're looking at cultural shifts, when you're looking at sort of values and strategic stuff going on within organizations, recognizing that space, that's where you're seeing this much more humanistic, responsive change rather than transactional change activity coming in. And those are where I'm starting to see the need and the recognition of the coaching coming in a lot more in that sort of space. And I think as the change profession grows, and I say change, not change management profession, because I count it as a bigger grouping in that stuff. I think as that grows, there's a recognition of a lot of these, you know, side-by-side activities that could be done that historically were all focused on the project manager, because that was the transactional piece, whereas now we're seeing so many other opportunities.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, everyone is coming back. Welcome back, everyone.
Don't forget to start the recording again. Sorry.
Good reminder.
Thanks, Nadine. Hey. As you're coming in, put in your chat, what were some things that came up? What are some key challenges that you spoke about?
I just wanted to say that I'm coming back into this meeting. I got kicked off the other meeting for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, my computer froze. I'm not too sure why, because I've never really had that problem. So that's why I'm back here. I don't know how to get back into my meeting room.
No, everyone's coming back anyways. Yeah.
I apologize for that.
Don't worry about
Thanks for coming back, Susan.
Yeah.
Right.
No problem.
Okay,
so
we
I
see some
see.
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see. Michelle says securing senior leadership change and commitment for change. Yes, we saw a lot of that in the task force research. Working in silos, absolutely. Ensuring engagement and buy-in from middle layer of management, since they influence the front line. Yes, again, Michelle, you know, sometimes there's a lot of focus at the top, and then it just sort of assumes that everyone's just going to jump on board and follow along, and that certainly doesn't happen. Burnout, working in silos, budget constraint for sure, working beyond your expertise. Susan, not everyone is open to change. That's a key thing, right? Resistance to change is your number one, whatever you want, gremlin, I guess you can say, right? And I know I've been part of it myself. You know, everyone says, oh, this is going to be easy. It's never easy. Oh, this is going to be straightforward. It's never straightforward, right? Everyone's on board. No, they're not. So that's certainly an area where coaching, working with change professionals can really supplement. Abby, what else are you saying?
Yeah, I'm seeing no one approach, absolutely, right? And then hearing resistance in large corporations, we're also seeing hierarchies, cultural aspects to change, importance of practicing empathy in change, absolutely. Fear of outcomes, we're seeing perceptions of change as negative, lots of going out of comfort zone, right? Absolutely. Stakeholder engagement, we saw that, yeah, a lot of great points. Uncertainty, change is scary. For smaller, mid-size, the budgets. So yeah, quite a lot. And thank you so much. These are excellent points that we're seeing.
I like what Murat said, change fatigue, just too much coming all at once. And it seems like it's endless, right? It just seems like you just get through one thing and then there's another thing changing. Or I know, again, in my experience, we'd start down one path of change and then decide, oh, actually, we're going to go over and do this. And it was like, wait, what? What's happening? Yeah, so great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So now we're going to get into the recommendations that have come out of the joint task force. And again, these are not absolutes. These are recommendations, suggestions. We know that working in the change space, working in organizations, there's uniqueness, there's complexity. And so these are suggestions, recommendations, but they are not absolute. So one of the sort of the big recommendations was bring in professional coaching earlier and more often. So as you saw, coaching can definitely address a number of challenges within change, right? Resistance, human behavior, human fear of change. And so what we did was we took the change standard and we literally went through those hundreds of steps. And then along with the case studies we did in the research, we said, where if we inserted more coaching, could it actually create an impact and significant change? And so this is what you're seeing, is that it's about right from the beginning. Ideally, you know, if you're putting together your change management team and you have a change professional, the suggestion here is to also have a professional coach, because as we saw, some of those challenges is at the sponsorship level, there can be challenges that start right there, right? There's a lot of political influence. It's like everyone has to say, yes, we're on board. Yes, we think this is great. Yes, all of our organizations, our functions are ready for change, and they're actually not. And so the coach can come in there and start to really ask some deep questions. They can coach individually and they can coach the sponsor team collectively to make sure that we're really getting down to that real why. And again, it's not to say that change professionals aren't doing this. They are doing this. And they also have a lot to do. They also are under a lot of pressure, right? To just make sure that the process continues to move forward and that certain deadlines are met. And so this is an and, right, that can help to really, from the beginning, get really clear. Then moving into formulating the change management strategy is not only about the stakeholder engagement strategy, but where can coaching be really, really effective? How do we bring coaching in earlier versus reactive? And as you see, coaching is in the change process, but what the research showed is that it often comes in when we start to hit the resistance, and they're brought in more as a reactive and a remedy. And so again, the opportunity to work more collaboratively together. And then also just to look at when you're starting to do the execution, really think about where is coaching going to be most effective? How will coaching be more effective? To again, remove resistance, build alignment, build engagement. So these are the 7 inflection points, we call them. We also spent a lot of time trying to really clearly define roles and responsibilities, because as much as there's complementary and there's overlap, there is also the importance of distinction. And so what this is doing is trying to really clearly define the role for each in the change process. As you can see, as we've outlined, is very complex. And so there's often a project manager, a change manager, a professional coach. And one of the other recommendations, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, is the use of coach approach. So the project manager is responsible for planning, execution. They're answering the question of what and how. The change manager is, again, credentialed and professional, focusing both on people and process. And they're about the how. How do we do this? How do we achieve the outcomes that we want to achieve? How do we impact employees and the business processes? The professional coach here is much more about the who. So we all can look at a plan and say, yep, we see what needs to happen by when and by who, but often there's challenges individually and in teams and within groups. So this is addressing the who. And then the use of coach approach, which is just about really using lots of open-ended questioning and creating safe spaces for conversations to be had, so that any resistance or risk is elevated and revealed earlier versus later in the process. So the importance here is there's complementary and distinct roles for everyone to play. There's a distinction as well between professional coaching and the use of coach approach. And again, many of us here today are dual certified, so you'll understand the distinction. But again, what the task force tried to do here was to try and make that very clear. So the coach approach is using skills and an approach. A professional coach is certified and trained in very deep coaching skills. They also focus very much on the who, and the engagement is usually longer. So you might have someone coaching the sponsor through the entire change process. You might have coaches coaching teams through a segment of the change process. And so it tends to be longer, it tends to be more of an engagement. The most important distinction is that a professional coach is bound by a code of ethics, which says that there must be a coaching agreement in place and confidentiality. That is the magic sauce of coaching in order for individuals, teams, or groups to be able to say, you know what, I'm having a really hard time with this change. I'm not buying it. I'm not engaged. I see too much risk. And so that's the real role that a professional coach can come in and create that psychological safety under the code of ethics of confidentiality, so that they can help to really move the organization forward. And again, I know many of you probably are very clear on the distinction. Abby, over to you on how we both come at change.
Thanks, Alicia. So there are some questions that challenges that we saw, and there's also lots of information everybody's saying. So absolutely, these are information which is available in the links that I've shared as well. And connecting to what Alicia has shared so far and the challenges that we've seen, these are some unique entry points that we're seeing, right? From a change professionals, it always begins with a large organization, a larger view in terms of change. And there is a structured approach, there is lots of plans, there's a very good way of how to implement change. At the same time,
you know for sure that you want the same thing? You want the Bobby Pom-Kong, or did you want to look at the...
Okay. Right. So I'm gonna then move to the professional coach approach, right? Where we're saying it begins with individuals. We do team coaching and we work with smaller groups. And coaching generally is to build curiosity, reflection, intuition, and basically enable them to build a new thinking. So we saw about fatigue, we saw about change being difficult, we saw about all of those challenges that were voiced out, about empathy. And I think this is the way where we're trying to think about how both can come together. And as professionals, when we build that into a change organization, then we work at different levels, engaging with individuals and teams. So it's always about building change and coaching at all levels of the organization and impact the overall work. We also saw some challenges which said lesser impact in change. We saw some challenges on fear and from a JTF, from the research that's happened, we are seeing some synergies in here, right? So this is where we, again, break from what you've heard from both of us so far, and then move in to another breakout and just have this insight to think about what are some limitations and how can we overcome, and how do we support these limitations as, in terms of synergies, right, coming together. So at Change Professionals, we know there's time, coaching takes time. So there is also a change aspect to that. And from a professional coach perspective, there is, the focus is not so large. It's always very close to the person. So the question here is, how do we synergize now? And how do we really come together? And we want you to think through this and come back again. We have another 10 minutes in the breakout. Think about all what you've heard and all what you've seen. And now what do you see as synergies between both the professions, right? So George, over to you for our breakouts.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you so much.
10 minutes again.
10
10 minutes. Yeah.
Alicia, I love these slides. Are these on the extranet? Or are these only
Most
for
of
the
them,
task force?
Some are,
oh, they're for the, yeah. Sorry.
No.
Go ahead, Abby.
no, I said some are not, but most of the important ones are there, Nadine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're
on the-
amazing. I love them.
Good. And we're going to share the slide deck afterwards too, so we should
Oh,
probably
perfect.
mention that.
Because
Yeah.
somebody asked that in the chat.
Yeah, so Abby, maybe we can answer that in the chat and just let people know. Yeah. Yeah. George, you want to pause the recording again for us, please?
Sorry, I don't mean to jump in. Have you put
Yeah.
people?
Just curious about what are some things, and again, use the chat to put in anything that's were discussed in your group and what were some trends and synergies that you saw. Thank you. Create alignment, create necessary conditions. Beautiful.
Mhm. And wonderful see this, but one of the research we did was that actual sponsors also need the support to really understand how to lead change. So they're being told to lead change, but they actually sometimes have their own reservations or concerns, and so that they're trying to lead, but their behavior is not matching what they're telling everybody to do. So that creates dissonance as well. So how do you help them role model? How do you help them actually demonstrate how to lead through change? Yeah, create psychological safety. Yeah, lead with empathy. Yeah, trust is like the number one, right? Is just people need to trust. What is this change going to do? Why are we doing it? What's the impact on me? Will I keep my job? Yeah, so there's a lot of trust that needs to be built. Yeah, support leaders around benefits of systemic change. Yeah. Yeah, Murat, thank you, because we were just, when we were on break, Nadine, who works in the Middle East, is like, hey, I actually just realized I'm working with a client who could really use a change professional. So she's like, Rich, who can you recommend? And so the magic is happening right here, right now. So thank you, everyone. So we're going to just keep going here. As we said, just one of the recommendations was just about how to think about adopting a coach approach, and you're seeing coach approach showing up everywhere, right? In leadership and in all different areas. And so it's about an approach, it's about a mindset, fostering a mindset to just get people to think more openly, to adopt, you'll hear a growth mindset. What if, what could be possible, what might work here. You know, it's always quick as a human to say what's not going to work. Coaching and that coach approach can help people to sort of go for a moment and sort of suspend that, you know, the fear and just go into possibility. What might actually come out of this that could be helpful. So again, just the if you want to learn more about coach approach, tons of information, you know, on the internet. Join ICF Toronto, reach out to any of us, and we're happy to give you more information. Abby, you were going to talk about the difference between what coaching is and what it's not.
Yeah. So the whole idea of, you know, what we're seeing again in the chat about be a friend, right? So from a coach approach, it's about using those coaching styles and methods to building into change. Right? The coach approach is an intention to help clients, to partner and to be a non-judgmental partner in that way, to drive curiosity and empathy, to also give them a reflective space, because we're speaking about fear, we're speaking about resistance, we're speaking about challenges that and the force in which the rapid changes that we are seeing. So how can change professionals use that coaching style and approach to help? And what it is not is, again, consulting, mentoring, therapy. It's a clear coaching conversation, which is just helping the members of change to actually embrace change, right? From a sustained movement, allowing them to take it in a pace that they are able to, but at least, you know, go towards the change. Yeah, that's the coach approach we're talking about. And happy to hear, again, many things that you've heard from Alicia, lots of information. Keep adding in the chat. What are your thoughts? What you're seeing?
So here's the wrap. We know we've shared a lot with you. Again, we encourage you to check out the Joint Task Force landing page, where it's got tons of information. But here's what we talked about today, right? Key takeaways for change professionals is really broadening the scope and thinking about how each profession has its unique and distinct contribution to change. If you're a change professional, how might you start to think about bringing in a coach? Where might you think about bringing in a professional coach? Also, just encouraging organizations and leaders to actually use coaches and also adopt the coach approach. Because again, the more people, if it's change professionals and the coaches that are role modeling what coach approach looks like, that's going to help the entire organization to adapt more of an open, curious mindset and culture to help facilitate the change. And again, the idea of partnering, right? So just hopefully we've explained and shown enough opportunity here where we're both distinct and we're complementary. For professional coaches, it's again just to understand, you know, the change dynamics. So Nadine was a perfect example. She's coaching a leader, and then she all of a sudden realized, wow, you know what, this organization and this leader really could benefit from bringing in a coach, change professional. So the more that coaches understand the change process in organizations, the more we can also advocate for our partners. Also, just to think about encouraging leaders, if you're coaching leaders, really to think about how to do change differently. Perhaps bring in more of a structured approach and more resources, which again, the change professionals can certainly bring. And then the idea is, you know, obviously working with client confidentiality can be a game changer when you're going through change. And so think about all the different places and modalities of coaching where if you could bring more confidentiality into it, how that could potentially unlock resistance and help facilitate better, more robust, more momentous change. And then just for both of us, right? This is about really provoking the idea of a holistic view of organizational change. The more we both understand each other and how we can impact change, clarifying roles and responsibilities. And even if you're dual certified, again, we're going to strongly suggest be distinct in your roles because it's very hard to to foster client confidentiality if you're also constantly speaking to the sponsors and having to report back on how change is going. So really think about what are each of the distinct roles and responsibilities, encouraging the organization to use both better together. And again, I think a lot of organizations will say we can't afford it. And again, I think the research shows that something like 70% of change projects fail. And so think about the cost of failure and what if they were actually invested up front and could mitigate that risk. And then today, just start to meet each other, network, and start to think about how might we be able to work better together. So that's the opportunities that we have. And I'm just thinking for time, Abby, maybe we just can ask people in the chat box to share. Yeah, what do you need? What can you offer as we think about wrapping this up? And I'm going to pass it over, as you think about those thoughts, I'm going to pass it over to Rich and Sharon, and they're going to speak to us a little bit about what's going on in ACMP and ACMP Ontario to bring both of our voices together in this. So Rich or Sharon, not sure who's going first.
I can start and then hand over to Sharon, because my lens, even though I'm based in Ontario, is much more of a global lens, and I can share that ACMP as part of its strategic direction is very keen to keep this, and I would say friendship, because I think that's the way it's become between ICF and ACMP going forward, and to keep nurturing that as we go. And both organizations recognizing the new and evolving touch points that we have with the world in terms of supporting individuals and organizations to become better individuals and organizations, whatever that may be. Just a couple of highlights. We do have, this is the point where I do my pitch. We do have a virtual global conference coming up in June. It's June the 11th to 13th, which is virtually accessible from all over the world. And as well as having 3 days of live delivery, we've also got currently, I think, 36 pre-recorded learning opportunities as well. So video on demand activity that we've added to the library as part of the conference experience. And if you move fast on that, you can also get ACMP membership when you sign up for the conference. So if you're thinking about it, not too sure about it, you can actually get two things in one go for doing that stuff. So lots of stuff and lots of other opportunities and activities going forward. And I'm going to hand it over to Sharon to talk about what's going on in this corner of the world. That's a very large corner of the world.
It is a very large corner. Thank you very much. And I just want to say this has been so wonderful to come together and have this conversation. And, you know, we're all working in a very similar space, and the people are at the center of it. I think coming out of this, I'm leaving this with the pace of change that people are seeing currently, and how us as change professionals, you know, we're needing to move fast as well. So to meet those deliverables, and how coaching could benefit through this process. So thank you for that. Thank you for inviting us to come part of your International Coaching Week. Please reach out through social media. I'd love to keep the conversation going. As I noted at the beginning, we are definitely ACMP Ontario and all over. Rich is in Toronto. I'm based out of Ottawa. So there's literally change professionals all over the province. As Rich said, invite you to take part in the conference. Check out our website for upcoming events that we have as well that maybe would be of interest of learning more on the change profession.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you for the panel. And Nadine, certainly please put your ICF Ottawa a link in the chat so people can reach out if they're in the Ottawa area. We've got our ICF Toronto website here. Again, jump in, see all the events. We have lots of events going on. We run monthly events. Happy to have you come and learn more about what coaching is and get to know the community. And Abby, is there any burning last minute questions? I'm not looking at the chat. Is there anything that we should address before we just do a quick thank you and wrap?
So we're not seeing questions, but we're seeing a lot of support for the power of both. That's what we're seeing. So it's I mean, as we launch this in Ontario today, while JTF has been there and while we're launching it today using this, I mean, I think this is a great space for what we've done in coming together. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And yes, stay tuned, because as I said, this is a pilot. So we are going to continue to be in friendship, as Rich mentioned, and look for more opportunities to bring both of our professions and communities together. So thank you so much. Happy International Coaching Week for those of you that are participating, and have a fantastic day. Thank you again for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you,
Thanks,
Sharon.
George,
Thank
for
you,
helping
Rich.
us.
Thanks, Abby.
Thanks,
Thanks, George.
You.
Thanks, Rich and Sharon.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George, for being our
Yes, thank
producer.
you.
Really, really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
George.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's probably the
Thanks,
hardest job.
George.
The hardest job.
I had a lot of fun too. Sorry about that.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
George. Bye, everyone.
Bye. George, you've recorded it to the cloud? The recording. Where did the
I just
recording
pressed the
go?
recording button. I think it will go to you because you're the host.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All
All right.
No.